Typically, the royal family Christmas is very steeped in tradition.
Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Quite a lot of the main event takes place on Christmas Eve because they follow the German tradition and they have a black tie cocktail party and dinner. They exchange fake presents really on Christmas Eve. And when I say fake, they kind of exchange joke presents rather than anything too serious. So I think in the past, Prince Harry once gave the Queen a shower cap with "Ain't Life a Bitch" written on it. And I think Princess Anne once gave Prince Charles a leather toilet seat. And I think when Princess Diana first married into the family, she didn't understand that they exchanged these kind of fake presents. And she gave everyone expensive cashmere and then was a bit embarrassed because people were then exchanging very, very silly presents. So that's a tradition they follow. And then they go to church on the Saturday at the St Mary Magdalene Church in Sandringham because the event has taken place in Sandringham for the last 33 years. There are lots of well-wishers around who like to see them. And then they have another very big meal, a traditional Christmas lunch. Then afterwards they might play charades, and it's really up to the Queen to decide when the festivities end, because when she decides she wants to go to bed, everyone can then go to bed, but nobody necessarily can go to bed before her. So I think over the course of that Christmas weekend, they have multiple outfit changes and it's quite a full-on few days of festivities. The coronavirus restrictions do apply to the royal family, so any sense that they are kind of above the guidelines is wrong. As with the rest of us this Christmas, they are limited to meeting up in a maximum of 3 households indoors. That's the reprieve that's been given by the government in England at least. Obviously, Sandringham is quite a big family affair and you'd have more households traditionally coming together to meet for Christmas Day. And the Queen has taken the decision that in light of the guidance, and also I think in light of the fact that she is 94, her husband Prince Philip is 100 next June, that they are just going to have a quiet family Christmas at Windsor Castle. Now, that actually returns to a much older tradition because traditionally Christmas was at Windsor and then the family got bigger and bigger and they ended up going up to Sandringham. So they're kind of going back to basics in a way by having it at Windsor Castle. I think it was always inevitable that they would stay in Windsor because Prince Philip had been up in Sandringham and was expected to spend the year more or less in Sandringham because now he's retired from public life. He likes to spend his time at Wood Farm, which is a farmhouse on the estate. And the Queen joined him there at the end of the summer holidays after they'd been in Balmoral. They spent some time there, and then to everyone's surprise, rather than staying up in Norfolk, Prince Philip then returned down south with the Queen, and they've been self-isolating in their bubble at Windsor Castle. So it kind of, even last month, seemed improbable that they would take the entire court back up north when everyone is in Windsor. And you have to bear in mind that actually it requires quite a lot to start opening a second royal residence. You know, it's a bit like Downton Abbey. There are fireplaces to light, there are clocks to wind, there are bedrooms to prepare. It's a massive undertaking. It requires quite a lot of staff. They in turn would have had to gone into quarantine and self-isolate ahead of the couple coming. So I think all round it was decided it would be much easier, and maybe this echoes most families in Britain, to have something a little more low-key in 2020. So the Queen is going to be in Windsor with Prince Philip. We think that they're going to spend the day privately and not do very much. However, we do think that they're going to have some royal visitors. So for instance, the Sussexes, that's her youngest son Prince Edward, his wife Sophie, and their children Lady Louise and Viscount Severn. They're really close to Granny and Grandpa because they've always grown up near Windsor Castle. They live at Bagshot Park, which is about 10 miles away. So it's very likely actually that the Sussexes will come and see the couple, maybe even outside, and have a socially distanced visit. Equally, the Duke of York, who has been laying very low in recent months since he stepped down from royal life last November, he lives at Royal Lodge in Windsor, and it's likely that he will pop in on his mother, and equally Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice. Eugenie's pregnant, they're both newly married, they might also pop in. We expect also the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall, Charles and Camilla, to go and see the Queen and Prince Philip. We know that they're going to be spending their Christmas at Highgrove, but they can make the journey. We also know that Camilla has got her own grandchildren who she'll want to see around the Christmas period. The Cambridges are probably the least likely to see the Queen and Prince Philip because we think they're either going to be in Bucklebury with the Middletons or up at Amner Hall, their country bolt hole in Norfolk, spending Christmas together. But there's been this historic photograph that's been taken between the Cambridges at the end of their trip on the Royal Train. They've done a whistle-stop UK tour and they've met up with the Queen and Philip at Windsor along with Prince Charles and Camilla and other members of the family to have that photograph that we're all going to be missing on Christmas Day because they aren't congregating together at church. I'm not sure whether the coronavirus Christmas that the royals are having this year is going to have a lasting effect because actually the Queen is a stickler for tradition and does enjoy going up to Sandringham and having Christmas there, as has been the case for more than 3 decades. So I think this is kind of a one-off because of the pandemic and its impact on everybody's seasonal plans. So I would expect a return to normal next year, although we're saying that about everything. We hope there's going to be some kind of return to normal once everyone is vaccinated by next summer, fingers crossed. And the royals will be hoping for that too. But what's interesting, I think, if you reflect on this extraordinary royal year where they haven't been able to be out and about as much as they would like, where a number of royal events have been cancelled, there's been no garden parties, there was a scaled-down Trooping the Colour, there's been no overseas royal tours. It goes to show that that family is affected as much as any other family. And in a way, all of the royals have been given a little bit of a reprieve when it comes to Christmas in 2020 because it is quite onerous. The Queen always understands, and I think this was a quote that came out of Buckingham Palace last week about the Christmas plans, that her grandchildren have competing demands on their time. And there's this onus to spend the Christmas holidays with the Queen and Philip. But of course, royals have got wives and partners who want to spend the family time with their own family, and therefore it's been difficult. So if you were going to try and put a positive spin on it, you would say that not only does the Queen and Prince Philip get to have a much quieter time together, but equally all of her extended family get the year off from what can be quite, not stuffy, but quite a complicated few days of celebrations, not least when it requires several outfit changes and black tie to be worn at dinner and all sorts. In a way, this extraordinary Christmas that the royals are now having, scaled down and different to previous years, sort of gives Harry and Meghan a bit of a reprieve. We don't quite know what they're going to be doing this Christmas, but we'd imagine now that they're in Santa Barbara, they're going to be spending it with Meghan's mum, Doria, not least because they've got baby Archie with them, and of course they want to be together as a family. Having said that, California's just been placed in a new lockdown. I believe there are 30 million people in the state now who are being told that they shouldn't mix households indoors. I don't know whether Doria is in some sort of household bubble with the Sussexes, but I suppose it does take the pressure off because people will have been asking this year, oh, are the Sussexes going to be spending Christmas with the Queen and Prince Philip? When's Archie going to see his great-grandparents again? And of course that question doesn't need to be asked. The tie has almost been severed with the news that Frogmore Cottage, the couple's Windsor home, has now been sublet to Princess Eugenie and her husband Jack Brooksbank. That happened a few weeks ago, or news of it emerged, and it kind of suggested, well, the Sussexes can't have many plans to return to Britain if they don't need their accommodation in the UK anymore.